They tried to take my ranch with luxury SUVs and a fake HOA, and they ended up taking a ride in the back of federal vehicles instead. Yeah, that actually happened. 18 shiny trucks barreling across my Texas pasture like it was a mall parking lot, pregnant cows scattering, dust rolling like a war scene. And the man leading it all had the nerve to live stream it. He thought he was about to claim my land. What he didn't know was he was driving straight into a lesson in physics and federal law. My name's Jed Hawkins, I'm 52, retired Army Corps of Engineers, and 3 months before all hell broke loose, I thought I'd finally found peace. 40 acres of rolling prairie, an 1890s farmhouse with a wraparound porch that creaked just right under my boots, heritage cattle grazing under oak trees older than this entire county government. I put every dime I had into that place, 340 grand, 20 years of deployments, bridges built in flood zones, bombs diffused in sandstorms, all traded for sunrise coffee and the smell of wildflowers drifting through open windows. I didn't want drama. I wanted quiet. I wanted my daughter Emma visiting more than just court-ordered weekends. I wanted cows, clean air, and no committees telling me what color my mailbox should be. Then one Tuesday morning, a week after I moved in, I'm fixing a sagging gate when I hear engines. Not one, not two, but a whole convoy. Through the mist comes a silver Mercedes G-Wagon with vanity plates that read HOAP. Like the universe was trying to underline the joke. Behind it, Range Rover, Autos, a Tesla, a parade of polished arrogance cutting tire ruts through my grazing land. Cows bolting, diesel hanging heavy in the air. The Mercedes stops 10 feet from me. Out steps Bryce Kellerton, pressed khakis, country club polo, smile so polished it squeaked. President of Willowbrook Estates HOA, he says, extending a hand softer than a pillow. Willowbrook Estates, turns out, wasn't even a real HOA. Just a subdivision 5 years old, no legal authority outside their manicured lawns. But Bryce had crowned himself king anyway. He starts talking about established traffic easements and integration into community infrastructure. Big words wrapped in printer ink. Sutton Blackwood joins him, sharp suit, sharper perfume, the kind of real estate shark who smells commission before breakfast. She leans in close and says, "We handle complicated transitions. It'd be a shame if regulatory issues made ranching difficult." Let me back up a sec. In Texas, prescriptive easements don't just materialize because your golf buddies feel entitled. 10 years of hostile, uninterrupted use. The previous owner, sweet old Martha Hendricks, had been in assisted living 3 years before she passed. No 10-year clock. They were bluffing. But they weren't just bluffing, they were escalating. 2 days later, 15 SUVs roll in while Emma's visiting. They idle by my cattle pond like predators posing for a photo shoot. Sutton's tablet shows surveillance pictures of my barn from inside my fence line. That metallic taste in my mouth. That's the flavor of someone trespassing. Then the county shows up. Soil testing. Environmental complaints. Anonymous filings. For hours of diesel noise and taxpayer money burned, 0 violations found. And that afternoon, Emma calls me crying. Someone had posted pictures of our ranch online, calling it an illegal factory farm. Kids at school asking if her dad was poisoning the water. That was the moment it stopped being about land. That night I installed 6 trail cameras and posted fresh signage. In Texas, documentation is king. You don't just react, you record. 3 days later, I catch Sutton on camera at 2:17 a.m., cutting my fence and photographing my barn. Crystal clear footage. License plate. Wire cutters in hand. Now here's where it twists. Dorothy Peton, 78, lives inside Willowbrook, drives a Buick older than my porch, pulls up one morning and hands me HOA meeting minutes. She'd been digging through old development files in her basement. Turns out Bryce's company had received $847,000 in county contracts to build a proper access road for Willowbrook. Bond money posted. Road never built. Funds vanished into consulting. Instead of finishing the road, he'd been routing traffic through private ranches like mine, convincing residents they had rights they didn't. 3 rural owners before me had been pressured into selling at 30 to 40% below market value. Organized fraud. Extortion wrapped in neighborhood emails. I drove to Austin to see an old Army buddy, Jake Martinez, now running a financial crimes investigation firm. I laid out the footage, the documents, the harassment pattern. He grinned like a man who'd just smelled federal charges. Wire fraud. Conspiracy. Maybe RICO if we play this right, he said. So we played it right. I started dropping hints around town that I was broke, complaining about legal bills at the diner, loud phone call at the bank about maybe selling. Within 48 hours, Sutton showed up with a cash offer 60 grand below what I paid. And she leaned close, real close, and bragged about how they'd facilitated transitions for 3 other ranches through regulatory pressure. What she didn't know: my kitchen had been wired for audio and video the day before. Confession recorded. But Bryce wasn't done. He posted Emma's school schedule online. Pictures of her at the bus stop. Called her part of an unstable agricultural environment. You want to threaten my land? Fine. Threaten my kid? Game over. That's when I designed the ballads. Retractable steel posts, 8 inches thick, sunk 4 feet into reinforced concrete. Hydraulic rise time, 3 seconds. LED warning system triggered 5 seconds before deployment. Fully legal under Texas property code, properly marked, documented. Dorothy became our lookout. Margaret Smith, forensic accountant with a resume that ruins careers, joined the War Council. Federal agents were already building a case on Bryce's fraud. We just needed them caught in the act. The night before the showdown, Bryce led a sabotage crew onto my land. Road spikes, fence cuts, oil poured into feeding troughs. Caught on camera. And then, loud enough for my directional mic to hear, he said into his phone, Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 launches at 7:30. Permanent solutions, he called it. At dawn, 18 vehicles lined up at Willowbrook's entrance. Drones overhead. Live stream equipment mounted on roofs. Bryce standing on his Mercedes, giving a speech like some suburban dictator. 7:29 a.m., they cross my property line. 7:30 a.m., my thumb presses the remote. 3 seconds later, steel rises from Texas soil like Judgment Day. The lead Mercedes hits at 35 miles per hour. Metal folding, airbags detonating, the sound echoing across 40 acres. Sutton's Range Rover slams into him. A pickup tries to jump the barrier and ends up nose first in my cattle pond. Chain reaction chaos. And through smoke and steam, Bryce crawling out still clutching his phone live streaming his own downfall. Then came the sirens, sheriff's deputies, federal agents, news crews. Handcuffs clicking. Warrants read. Margaret stepping forward with documents thick enough to choke a lie. Wire fraud. Conspiracy. Money laundering. Criminal trespass. Extortion. 6 months later, Bryce is serving 7 years in federal prison. Sutton got 5 and lost her license. The county recovered over $1 million and finally built the road that should have existed from day one. No more convoys across my pasture. The ballads haven't triggered once since. Emma's studying agricultural law now. Says she wants to protect rural families from this kind of garbage. Dorothy got elected to county office on a transparency platform. And every fall we host what folks around here jokingly call Ballard Days, raising money for rural legal defense. Some Willowbrook families even buy beef from me now. Turns out they were fed lies too. So here I am, back on my porch, coffee steaming, cattle grazing peaceful as Sunday morning, prairie grass swaying like nothing ever happened, and I can't help but think about that moment, that split second before I pressed the button. Some folks say what I did was extreme. But tell me this, if someone threatened your kid, trashed your livelihood, and tried to steal your land inch by inch with paperwork and intimidation, how far would you go to stop them? Where you live, are property rights ironclad, or just words on paper? Drop your state below. I want to hear how it works where you are. And tell me, was I right to set that trap, or would you have handled it differently? Because one thing I've learned, after bridges and battlefields and one very expensive suburban convoy, peace is worth defending. And sometimes, the most satisfying justice comes with a 3-second rise time.